गुड इवनिंग एंड वेलकम टू गना शॉट। गना शॉट में आप सबका स्वागत है। आज हम एक स्पेशल शो करने वाले हैं क्योंकि पाकिस्तान में एक स्पेशल इवेंट हो रहा है। वो है पाकिस्तान में इलेक्शंस कल हो गए। इलेक्शंस जो हुए हैं वो हुए हैं, बट व्हाट वी नीड टू डू इज लुक अहेड। सो टुडे वी आर गोइंग टू डिस्कस पाकिस्तान पोस्ट इलेक्शंस. And to discuss this important topic, I have with me a very erudite and intellectual panel of General Gautam Moorthy, who's the founder of 𝗣𝗂𝘅. Next to him is Dr. Ayesha Siddiqa, who's joining us all the way from London. And she needs no introduction. Anyone who's not read her book, Military Incorporated, does not need to know much more about the Pakistan elections either. And then Dr. Kartha, with whom I've written a few articles, and she's a real expert on Pakistan, and she's been also in the National Security Council. And then, of course, my old co-commander, General Atta Hasnain. Right. What we'll do today is this. I'll give a brief introduction about what's happening in Pakistan, the number of seats, all that. And then I have one question for the entire panel. That is, where does Pakistan go from here? And that's how, and after that, we will see how the whole thing goes and how we take on the questions. Right. The first thing, this is where approximately the standing is. PTI is between 92 to 99, depending on which website you look at it. Dawn says 92. PMLNN is about 71. PPP is 53, GUIF is at 3 seats, and others at 36. But then, with this kind of a thing, anything is possible. Horse trading would have started by now. Coalition forming would have started by now in Pakistan. We all know that. And that's a normal thing as far as democracy goes. But that's not very important. This is the more important thing. This is the cartoon which has been going around the net in the past 2-3 days. And what does it say? Motto of Pakistan Army: Jang kadi jeeti nahi, election kadi hariya nahi. And I hope my Punjabi is as good as my Tamil. But then that's how it is. I leave it at that. We'll start with what we are supposed to do. Where does Pakistan go from here? And the first person whom I'll invite is Gautam Moorthy, sir. You've been to Pakistan, right? And you've been to Pakistan and met a whole lot of their army hierarchy on a one-to-one basis, and you probably have a good idea about them. So what is your take on where does Pakistan go from where it is? All yours.
Good evening, General Shankar. Good evening, my honored co-panelists, and good evening to all the participants in this important seminar. General Shankar started with the introduction. Yes, I've been to Pakistan. This was in 2008 as a guest of the Pakistan National Defense University. And not only have I interacted with a number of Pakistani officers, not only in Pakistan, but in India, Australia, and at various missions across when I've traveled officially. But I have also had the opportunity to meet a number of Pakistani civilians in Pakistan. And as I go along, I'll tell you about the sense that I get after my meeting with the civilians there more than with the army. Now, 8th February 2024 will go down as a red letter day in the history of Pakistan. This election is unprecedented in Pakistan history. Why? Because it has taken place under the full glare of social media. And social media is something that does not lie. The establishment did all it could to fix the results. However, the people of Pakistan have spoken. They've defied the establishment, and as you can see, they have stood with Imran Khan. Social media has actually exposed the manipulation with dozens of video clips that you and I and many of the participants would have seen on Twitter and YouTube. The results, as you have shown, were announced. It showed that the independent candidates in the lead, and let us see what happens now. Now, both Mr. Nawaz Sharif and Barrister Gohar, who spoke on the behalf of Imran Khan, are laying the claim to form the government. In fact, the barrister at the press conference has claimed a majority not only in KPK but in Punjab. And he very clearly said, we won't let someone with only 50 seats form the government. He has stated that they respect all institutions. He said, we have a fight with no one. And he has appealed to all the institutions, within brackets read the Pakistan Army, to respect the voice of the people. He has stated also that President Alvi will ask Imran Khan to form the government. He's called for peaceful protest tomorrow in the constituencies where the results have not been declared. In the meanwhile, we know that furious talks are taking place between the erstwhile PDA members to cobble up some form of a coalition government. As the PTI supporters have said, they have said the losers have got together to form the government. A number of PTI supported candidates are also approaching the court and the Election Commission Tribunal. And basically, they are saying that we don't want a carry forward of the dynastic politics, which Imran has condemned in the past. However, a coalition would mean a continuity of the policies followed by the interim government. The army and the entire establishment are very concerned about the economic situation, which is quite dire. And what they are saying is, let us move on. This is the kind of mantra that is being chanted. Last month, we are all aware that the IMF has approved that 700 million loan under the 3 billion bailout. Now, therefore, the Pakistan government has to take and has taken some very unpopular measures, which have fueled at all-time high inflation. The establishment we know is absolutely dead against Imran Khan. They believe what India could not do in 75 years, Imran Khan has done in 1 year. And as we all know, Imran Khan took on the US, Saudi Arabia, and UAE, all long-time benefactors of Pakistan. He even formed an Islamic bloc with Turkey and Malaysia before he was pressurized to dissolve it. So Pakistan is beset with numerous problems. We are looking at climate change. We are looking at, apart from the economy, the terrorism, Baluchistan insurgency, the sending back of over 2 million Pashtuns. It's going to cause a huge problem. So what Pakistan right now needs is a strong and stable government. But what it is likely to get is a lame duck government backed by a much weaker military establishment, which is also riven by dissensions under the surface. We've all seen videos that have surfaced of young officers and families joining in protests. Now, if the former PDA members form a government, how strong will it be, considering the army has been weakened? Can the army assert itself now? Will it regain the past standing if it does? And therefore, will the words of Benazir Bhutto ring true? I'm in office, but I'm not in power. Will it be the case of the house will always win? Or are we going to see tectonic changes taking place? Is this going to be the Arab Spring of Pakistan? Thank you.
Thanks a lot, sir. You made some very telling points in what you've spoken. You spoke of the Arab Spring, which is quite a bit. In some ways, yes. What you probably missed out is that Imran Khan getting the Nelson Mandela kind of a status which people are talking of. Then that's for a different time. But the first thing which you spoke of is probably very critical. The unprecedented nature of these elections and the outcomes, considering the animosities which exist in that country. And this is probably the first time that the army is facing a criticality. And what kind of a criticality it's facing, I'm going to come back to you much later. Right. With this, we'll turn our attention to Dr. Tara Kartha. Madam, your take on what's happening all over. All to you.
Okay, just I'm going to be very quick on this since General Moorthy has made such a fantastic introduction. See, in terms of the election and in terms of the extreme, what shall I say, the you want to call it fixing, you want to call it rigging. What I mean, I know Hussein Haqqani makes a very good difference between these two. Fixing is pre-election, and rigging is, thereafter. And I think the problem here is that the hand of the army has been extremely obvious, and not just in the elections, but in the run up to it and the things they did. That was, I think, unwise. The fact that they put themselves right in front to say that this is what, I mean, it was like they were drunk with power. And so some of the things they did, I think, went really too far, like even convicting his wife and husband and wife, Imran Khan and his wife, in a case saying that, they were married at the wrong time, so on and so forth. Like exactly what it's called, I forget. So it was overkill. Now, having done that overkill, now finding that Imran Khan is reaching near 100 votes, it's a very, very bad slap in the face. But that doesn't mean, I mean, there is a general suggestion that, oh, the Pakistan army is in grief. I don't think so. The chief will be in grief because he is the face of all this. The chief, Asif Munir, is the face of all that has happened. The rest of the army will continue as before, especially now that, I mean, since we're looking into the future, they have this, probably what will happen is a coalition force fighting among themselves. That suits them fine. Now, the question number 2, which I hope Ayesha will take on, is PTI as independence, will they retain their coherence? And in certain places, yes, like in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, where they have a solid base, they will retain their coherence. Punjab, probably not. We don't know. We'll have to see. Because, I mean, to put it very simply, for a voter to see his candidate suddenly skipping to, say, PMLN, he's going to lose his voter base. So there is a limit to how much you can do in certain areas like Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, where they're very strong. Second thing, of course, is the election. And I think the most telling indicator, I mean, I always find if you want to see what the future is going to be, look at the stock market. So here you saw how the stock market crashed with the election results. I mean, there's complete, the business community is saying we don't know what's going to happen next. And the third is that the fact that, I mean, PTI, Imran Khan exists. You can't do away with him. He's there. He's won these seats. Now, the thing is whether he has the power. I mean, there is a question coming up, which I just checked, as to what was the election turnout. Was it huge? Was that why the youth came out? They voted for Imran Khan. I find that there is one watchdog who has said that the election turnout was about 47%, which is not really very much. So it's really unclear whether with the entire operational command inside prison, PTIs, whether they can generate the same kind of resistance they once did. It's a big question. If there are middle level leaders, then perhaps, but I'm not sure. I think that Ayesha can answer. In terms of what's going to happen in the future, it's going to be very shaky. But then Pakistan, this is not the first time Pakistan has seen such things. They've seen this, like I think Ayesha herself said, they've never, hardly ever had a fair election. So they don't get the kind of expectations that somebody else would in another country. I think I'll stop there.
Oh, thank you, madam. So nice of you. It was short and crisp and clear. And again, you made your mark in the first few sentences you spoke. This election is marked by fixing, because the fixing started much before, and the rigging, which is, impugned throughout this whole story for the past 24 hours. And this isn't not going to go away. And that leaves this government, whichever government which comes in a shaky position. And the second point which you made, which I found very interesting, is that the chief will be in grief, but the rest of the army will continue the way it is. That raises a few questions, which I'll come back to you later. Thanks a lot. Madam, Dr. Ayesha Siddiqa, all yours, madam. The same question to you. Where does Pakistan go from here? All yours.
Well, firstly, Lieutenant General Shankar, thank you so much for inviting me, and greetings to co-panelists. You know, I was listening to Tara Kartha's comment about stock market crashing, but stock markets crash and then they get up on their feet again. And every time there is something which is unexpected, they do tend to go down. I think the picture that comes out very clearly, I mean, having said that, elections have been managed, etc., etc., I think we also, these numbers that you put on the table were not final because a number of decisions have been challenged and some of them will be overturned. So we may end up finding PTI supported independents with greater numbers, maybe PPP getting some numbers here and there. So the final numbers are still awaited. But the picture that comes out very clearly is a very polarized Pakistan. A Pakistan which passionately came out, surprised everyone, surprised all those anchors who thought that PMLN is going to have a smooth sail, completely disappointed them and surprised them. It surprised the military as well, because despite all the election management, I mean, I'll tell you, one of the biggest things that happened was that, people's votes were distributed completely through different polling stations. So in a household, if you have 5 family members, at least 3 of them were sent to totally opposite direction polling stations, even out of town. But where I think the military made a tactical mistake, which came to bite them, was that they also gave 5 days public holiday. So people who were determined to vote then could actually come out and vote. So that strategy to actually reduce the turnout didn't actually work. It did to a certain extent, but no more. Now, the other thing which is important to note is that since 18th Amendment, which was done by the Pakistan People's Party government during the government in 2008, what is very clear is that unless the military actually practically throws out a political party out of a province, it's very difficult to now throw them out. So PTI has got, has swept Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, which it was ruling before from 13 to 18, and even before that. Sindh, you can't get PPP out of there, and you can't even get PMLN out of Punjab. So the largest majority in Punjab, which is the largest province of Pakistan, which is practically, I'll be very crude in suggesting that, but sometimes people have to be crude. It is practically politically Pakistan. Punjab is held by PMLN. The only thing which is hanging is in the balance is Balochistan, and there it's a question of who's going to have what kind of a coalition. What we clearly see is the BAP party, Balochistan Awami Party, which was made by the previous military regime, and whose one of his members became caretaker Prime Minister, Anwar Kakar. It's been wiped out. So it's half and half between PMLN and Pakistan People's Party, I think with 2 or 3 independents. Now, very clearly, there is a leitmotif which is already there. Provincial governments, the question now is who's going to make the federal government, the government at the center, which then is going to go very soon. I mean, soon after a government is formed in June, it's going to go out to the International Monetary Fund and negotiate another deal. And that is very, very critical. And therefore, it's important for both the military and for the country that there is a certain consensus. I don't see that consensus emerging. And there are two issues which I would like to very briefly, draw your attention towards. One is that having won this kind of numbers, the PTI would want to go for the jugular. It would want. I mean, it's making these, horrendous claims that it's got 170. Granted that if that there was post-election result management, and if that is corrected, they'll probably get another 20 to 25 seats there. Even with that, who is going to sit with them and make a government? They'll have to negotiate. And they've already laid the claim that no, we are not going to sit with the People's Party or with the PMLN. On their own, there aren't enough numbers. I mean, this is a very interesting parliament this is going to be, because religious parties have been wiped out, which is so very interesting. JUIF is the only one with 2 members, which is there. There is, of course, MQM Pakistan, which with 17 seats. I mean, somebody was laughing today that they've got more seats. They've been given more seats than actually their support base. So with that 17, will they be able to form a government? The other thing is they have to go to the court now, because PTI is saying we will not join any party, but we will, be represented as PTI. Since they've been barred, I think they'll have to go to the court, and this is a matter which needs to be taken up. And this is a matter of an internal negotiation with the army as well, see where that goes. So I'd be looking at that. The other important thing, I think, which I wanted to draw your attention towards, that what has emerged from all of this craziness is that right now the only leader who seems to be saying anything sensible actually is 𝗣𝗚𝗿 Bhutto Zardari. He's somebody who mellowed down, who reached out, who talked about, joining hands with everyone, giving space to everyone. He had even announced that, he's going to free PTI people once, if his government is in power. Of course, PMLN goes in another direction. He's a sensible young leader. And I wish he's not held back so much by his father, Asif Ali Zardari, who's either keen to become president again or who's very afraid of the army. One final point, and I'll stop.
No problem.
That.
Please take your
time, madam. So one, and yes, sorry, let me finish with this point. The problem that I have is that there is so much of polarization. Everybody's saying, we're not going to let this one come. We won't sit with that one. We won't sit with, this one. Nobody is talking about, okay, we've won. What is plan B? What is the plan for Pakistan? How are we going to take it forward? It's all, it's right now, it's only me. This is what I want to do. So that's why I'm saying that 𝗣𝗚𝗿 Bhutto appears more sensible. The army, I think army, firstly wanted, the grapevine had always said that army wanted a weak coalition, but whether it expected these kind of results, I'm not sure. What is going to likely to happen is that if they manage to force PPP and PMLN to sit together and form a coalition, of course, the PPP is going to ask for 3 pounds of flesh, forget about 1 pound of flesh for that partnership. But it also means that, it's what they want is that this kind of government to kind of move on and take the country forward. It doesn't give a role, that kind of a prominent role, to Mian Nawaz Sharif. So the question will now be, will the army now try to convince Nawaz Sharif to allow his brother Shehbaz Sharif to come and form the government and become the prime minister? Or will they stick to plan A of, Nawaz Sharif? And I don't think that Nawaz Sharif can ignore the voices which are saying that, you better sit in the opposition. What are you doing trying to form a government? So they're bringing PPP and PMLN together, and PPP realizes that this is going to be a PDM 2.0, which is the government, which is the coalition which had replaced Imran Khan, and PPP gets to be hurt the most with a PDM 2 kind of a formula. So everyone will have to manage. Things are going to be unstable. There's going to be resentment if they're going to go ahead with this, and I'll stop here.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. I think you made a whole lot of points. If I encapsulate them, you spoke of a polarized Pakistan versus a passionate Pakistan, which has thrown up a surprise. Like it always throws up surprises in World Cups, right? And this is nothing less than that. But the more important point which you made is there's a two-stage process which is unfolding ahead. First, someone has to get together to form a government, and that government has to be stable. And at this point of time, like you rightly said, everyone is going in his own direction, and they're all stuck. Whether they'll come together to form the government and then give stability is anybody's question. The third point, which I think is very important, which for most of us we wouldn't have realized it, is the 4 provinces of Pakistan are now going to be governed by 4 different entities who might or might not be at loggerheads with the federal government. And KPK being under PTI, right? PTI government and the federal government of any other shade, there's going to be problems in that area, given the kind of terrorism which is let loose by the TTP in that area. So it doesn't augur well, not only from the economic point of view, it doesn't augur well from the security point of view also, but that will come to later. And I think the most interesting proposition which you put across today is the fact that Bilawal Bhutto is the one who is talking sense. And I'll put this across, I'll get back to you on this. Is there a chance of a PPP PTI government emerging? But then we'll discuss that later. That is, to me, seems to be a very interesting proposition, which is probably not out of the table so far. With this, General Ata Hasnain sir, all yours. Where is Pakistan heading from here?
Thank you, General Shankar. Thank you very much. And my greetings, compliments to my fellow panelists. Can't be a better set of panelists anywhere on this subject. Having said that, let me say, Pakistan is a great survivor. It has survived all kinds of crises. It will survive this crisis, right? I don't really consider this as a crisis because they were already in this crisis situation prior to the elections, right? So it's just a question of a different crisis coming their way. The second thing is that I'm not very confident about the Pakistan Army's efficiency in handling these kind of things. They've shown how ham-handed they can be. You saw what happened on the 9th of May in Lahore cantonment and how it was handled. And that just shows how this whole election has been handled. But there is a flip side to perhaps a theory that did the military or did the Pakistan Army actually want it to be done this way? Did they want the PTI the legitimacy of the PTI to come up halfway to show the legitimacy of the election itself? To say, no, we didn't interfere with anything here at all. We allowed it to go. Exactly. All this putting off of the internet, etc., was more for security reasons than for anything else. That's what is being written off at the moment already. So the Pakistan Army may have just attempted to handle this differently, but in their typical ham-handed way, haven't been able to, get the perceptions clear. So a very interesting situation has emerged, as Jan Shankar was just saying, 4 different provinces, 4 different parties But remember, whichever is the party in the center will also be looking at, or whichever the coalition in the center will have two important provinces with them. Most likely, Sindh and Punjab will be with them, and that is what really matters in Pakistan. No doubt, KPK, from the security angle, is going to be a major issue with the PTI in control there. Having said all this, whenever in Pakistan this kind of a situation emerges, you always imagine that the problem will go down to the streets. Will the PTI attempt to try and take it to the streets? I have my doubts that they will succeed in being able to do it. They may attempt to do it, right? But I don't think they will succeed in doing it. We have already seen that the radical footprint in this particular election has been very weak. And therefore, this has been a traditional thing in Pakistan where we see radicals very strongly on the streets, in the mosques and things like that. But when it comes down to the hustings, finally, you don't find their imprint anywhere. But despite all this, there seems to be some kind of a movement pushback against radicalism to some extent. And therefore, the PTI may not find its traditional supporters on the streets, or not be able to provoke them and get them going to be able to fight it out. And anyway, where will it lead to? It will not lead to any degree of finality. So what we are looking at in this scenario is just exactly what was existent before the election, or before the norms came in and you had the PDM government in place. The PDM government was there, and that's exactly the kind of government which is likely to come in. 4 or 5 points I'll just very crisply just explain. Number one, economics. March is the time where we are looking for renegotiation of some kind of a deal on the IMF or anyone else. Otherwise, debt servicing is going to become a major problem. Unless the government is formed quickly, and the government may take some time to form, as Ayesha herself was saying, it may take 10, 12 days or whatever it is to take. This is going to get affected very badly. But Pakistan somehow has a way of always coming out of it. We've been hearing for the better part of the last 2 years the kind of economic strains within Pakistan, but we find at the end of the day, still there seems to be sufficient for everyone around. Not to say that it doesn't weaken the entire system as such, and its survivability as a system is always at stake. Number one. Second, nothing, we needn't bother about the climate effects. No one is going to look at this aspect of climates and development in this kind of a situation. Improvement with India till April, May, when the elections in India have taken place, I don't think we can see any further movement going. Thereafter, if this government survives, this government stays on, we can hope that some kind of overhaul will start from both sides. It will be baby steps and nothing more than that. Something like trade. Can we expect an initiative on trade, something which Pakistan can look forward to, improvement of its economy? I don't think that kind of a bravado will be attempted by the Pakistan government at any stage. The important thing is the Pakistan army seems to be divided. As we know, it is divided. How is it going to affect? Obviously, there will be some elements within the PTI who will want to try and exploit this. Will that give them the capability to take this down to the streets? I don't think so. The Pakistan army divided, it still remains a reasonably disciplined force. I still have my respect for their professionalism, and I don't think it will come down to that kind of a situation where you find a complete split, a vertical split between the corps commanders or between different elements of the Pakistan army. An Arab Spring that we have spoken of in terms of violence, attempting to bring in dictatorship to democracy or effective democracy, etc. I don't see that kind of leadership anywhere at the moment which can effectively bring about an Arab Spring kind of a situation for Pakistan as such. So what we are finally looking at is just a situation in which Pakistan is going to continue in the mode that it was. The last point I have is that General Munir's idea, and we've discussed this before, if you remember in the Munir doctrine, the whole idea of General Munir, of perhaps his stay in the United States, 10, 12-day stay that he had in Washington, of trying to stabilize Pakistan, bring about an improvement in Pakistan's overall reputation, its geostrategic and geopolitical importance, to bring it to the level of a middle path. All this is shelved for the moment because he hasn't got the kind of result which he was perhaps expecting. And I think he's going to spend the better part of his time in the near future managing the internal politics rather than looking at the projection of Pakistan from a geopolitical and a geostrategic angle internationally. I'll rest my case there.
Thanks a lot, sir. I think you also made a lot of points which are very important for all of us to understand. Pakistan is the eternal survivor. It survives on oxygen, it survives on carbon dioxide. So both are okay, right? But it survives. And it survives well, much against what we think and against all norms, right? Like I get the World Cup back, go back to 92. I remember seeing the complete thing in Australia. They came back when they were out of it. So let's not rule them out. Okay. The next thing is that the biggest strength of the Pakistan army, biggest strength of Pakistan is the Pakistan army. Now that is at risk. And that has come out, with everyone's view says so that there is some shakiness in the army, right? Will the streets erupt? No, you very clearly said they won't. But you also painted a back to the future kind of a scenario. If it's a back to the future kind of a scenario, and we've also spoken of a PDM 2.0 coming up, so everything is in a question mark. The Munir doctrine, which we spoke of 10-15 days back, has gone out of the window at this point of time. We'll see how it goes because it has implications of how we have to deal with India. And I'll get back to you on this later. Right. Now, we've gone through everyone's this thing. So let me ask a few questions to each one of you. I'll start again in the same sequence. I'll start with General Gautam Moorthy. Yesterday, I was on a show with someone else, and it was my opinion that the Pakistan army has reached a point where it has three ways to go. One is that it just succumbs to the whole situation and let things go and let things evolve the way it is. The second option is that it will try and engineer a PDM 2 kind of a 2.0 kind of a arrangement, but then with Imran Khan still there, you can't wish him away, and with his kind of a opposition, it might not be the easiest thing to happen, right? And third, of course, there could be a coup. It could still happen. If things don't happen, the army might be forced to take over. All these three are problematic. We've also spoken of divisions within the army. And these divisions were apparent last year in May when the eruption took place. Somehow got papered over. I see those divisions coming up. So the first thing which gives stability to the Pakistan is the Pakistan army. Gautam sir, in view of all what I've said, do you think the Pakistan army will be able to stabilize the nation and take it forward?
Very good question at this moment in time. But before I get on to your question, I just have one issue, one common point made by Dr. Ayesha Siddiqa and General Atta Hasnain was that they were rather sanguine that Punjab will go the PMLN way. I have my reservations on that because I heard the press conference and Barrister Gohar was very clear that they are going to claim Punjab because they have more number of independents supporting them rather than what the PMLN has. So I do not know whether it's going to be smooth sailing. Punjab is going to be a bone of contention to my mind. Be that as it may, now to answer your question about the Pakistan army, at the outset, it's very clear that the Pakistan army is a very disciplined force. They lay great stress on the appointments that are held. As you see, every chief actually fades away, except for General Musharraf, who pushed himself to president. Zia also pushed himself to president. Otherwise, by and large, the chiefs just fade away, like General 𝗣𝗲𝗏 has faded away. But do you remember at the time when General 𝗣𝗲𝗏 was handing over charge to General Munir, he made a speech where he very clearly emphasized that the Pakistan army has decided to stay completely away from politics. But the more the Pakistani army tries to stay away from politics, a weak polity invites them and tells them, you please come here and handle this for us. Why do you think this aspect of geoeconomics came up with General 𝗣𝗲𝗏 and again taken forward by General Munir, who has said that there is a strategic role of the Pakistani army in the SIFC, that is a Special Investment Facilitation Council. And he went across to convince the Gulf monarchs to consider investing up to 100 billion in Pakistan. Be that as it may, at the top level, we saw 9th of May, General Hasnain has also alluded to it. There was a pushback from the rank and file. Even recently, as of day before yesterday, we saw at one of the housing colonies, there was a pushback. There were slogans supporting Imran Khan. So I really do not know how General Munir, of course, as General Hasnain said, he used a ham-handed approach and cracked down. But will this continue? Does General Munir have the complete support of all his 9 corps commanders? I told you they respect authority. But today, perhaps it is still a little too early to say. As things go by, as days proceed, if you know which way the wind is blowing, perhaps some senior officers may just say, sir, let us not interfere in what is happening. Let the politicians resolve this issue. Let us step back. And I think that would be a major inflection point for the Pakistan Army. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, sir. So let's not have any doubts left that this election has brought Pakistan Army to a major point of inflection. What will happen further is anybody's guess, but all options are open, right? If Munir is supposed to be weak, or rather he's gone on a tangent, if I may say so, and the rest of the Pakistan Army wants to remain where it is and stable where it is, we might see that unprecedented action of him being thrown out also. But if that happens, what happens to Pakistan Army is a $1 million question. Whether Pakistan Army will allow that to happen also is a $1 million question. So Pakistan Army at this point of time, I think, is at a bit of a risk. Whether they'll tide over, time will tell, but something which we have to look at. My next question is to Dr. Tara Kartha. Madam, all this is happening there. What do we do from India? How does it affect us? What is our policy options with them? Because anything could go on there, and especially with the kind of an outreach which you are doing to the Middle East and things like that, and the chaos which is going on in West Asia. How do you think we handle this situation?
Yeah, that's I think the $1 million question again. But just to come back to the Pakistan Army a bit, is that see, the army as an institution, the reason it will hang together as much as it may dislike XYZ is that they need money for their defense budget. And unless the IMF comes through, they are in grief. Unless the other investments come through, they are going to be in a lot of problems. So that, where it has reached, the economy has reached such a state of near collapse that they may find it prudent to just hang in. But I would actually, can I cross question a little bit? I
Yeah,
wanted
please
to,
go ahead. Go ahead. Go
yeah,
ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
whether the rather dubious credentials of the army chief will also play a part. I mean, he doesn't have the, the high lineage of other officers. He's not ex-Kakul. He doesn't have, he doesn't have all like his ISI chief has a whole list of, what shall I say, qualifications. Whether that will, because I always wondered in the army, if the gentleman here will pardon me saying so, in the army, if X person hasn't done say staff college, there is a definite change in the way they are guarded. Okay, I'm just giving an example.
Yeah. You're right. You're right. I mean,
Yeah.
let's be very clear. You're right. Yeah.
So the lower rank, the next couple of levels may not have the same respect for Munir as they should, and he himself in the last few months has been trying to show just how big he is. I'm a big man. The way he threw these guys into prison and all that has turned around and hit him in the face. So we need to. That is also a very, very what shall I say, a point of strain. But coming to what India can do, there's really very little that we can do in the circumstances. I saw a question saying that should we reach out? Will we reach out to the next prime minister, whoever he is? I think if the Pakistanis elect somebody, it's a democracy. And I got to say this. I mean, hats off to the Pakistani voters. I mean, they showed their decision making. Hats off to them. So you will have to reach out. Now, in most of our TV conversations, you'll find a bunch of analysts saying, "Why bother about Pakistan? It's a gone case. Let's just ignore them." You can't ignore your neighbor, especially since you see China making inroads into it in terms of various things which we can't talk about here, including, say, its submarine, communication centers. It's the optical fiber link into Pakistan, which goes then into their missile network. These are things you can't ignore. And the weaker a state, the more China and other powers will use them, including the US. They will all use this weak, divided Pakistan for their own interest. That is not in our interest at all. Now, it sounds very good to say on TV. People sort of say that, oh, let them do what they want, and this very, strong arm spirit. But the reality is this: a weak, divided, unstable Pakistan is not good for us. I'll stop there.
Yeah, I think let me qualify what you said. A weak, unstable and divided Pakistan is not good for us. While we might not be able to do anything much about it, it is in our interest to manage the environment thereafter, because the players who will take something out of this system or this particular set of equations which will newly emerge are the bigger players, and how we manage that overall environment is something which we need to focus on. I'll get back into Pakistan. And I'll ask Dr. Ayesha Siddiqa, Madam, I'll get, for the past 2-3 days, one of the things which I keep hearing, which I mentioned in the beginning, is Mr. Imran Khan assuming the status of a Nelson Mandela of Pakistan. You can't wish him away. He's risen from the ashes. Even from the jail, he's made his impact on ground. And that impact is visible in the 100-odd seats which he's already got, and he's got a state with him, province with him. How do you think he's going to impact the future of Pakistan? Because now, considering the whole issues, and how do you think this is going to gel with the instability in the army itself? These two are, lightning producers.
Yeah. Well, General Shankar, I would request you, to be at least more respectful to Nelson Mandela. I mean, Imran Khan is hardly any Nelson Mandela.
Okay, before that. When I about it, that's what's been spoken of. It's not my view.
Yeah.
That's what's been spoken of.
No, even to repeat it, because earlier on, even Sree Iyer had self-acquired the title of being a Nelson Mandela. These are, I'll grant Imran Khan this, that unlike the Sharifs, he is not wanted to run away from the country and do a deal. And he is kind of stuck inside. He's been in jail, and apparently, from what his lawyers say and what people who have a right to visit him say, that he is in good spirits. And I'll tell you the secret of good spirits as well. I think the important thing and the secret of that good spirit as well, and how will his future get carved out, or how will he impact the future of Pakistan? I think it's important to understand one major issue. At the end of the day, while this is, we're looking at several frames here. It's people of Pakistan versus the military of Pakistan. It's a political battle. But I think a very important dimension that we cannot ignore, at the end of the day, it's also a battle within the army, which has generated the kind of problem that we see today. So Imran Khan continues to hang in and depend that there will be forces that will, push back, or at least allow Asim Munir to create room for him, Imran Khan. Imran Khan's problem is not with the military. Imran Khan's problem is that he was removed, and removed unceremoniously. And he wanted, and at one of his hearings, he had said that, मैं इसको extension भी दे दूंगा. Sorry, not extension. He said कि मैं इसको appoint भी कर दूंगा. Now, he was trying to kind of send a signal to Asim Munir. Now, the problem here is that, I was listening to Kartha talking about, what is Asim Munir standing. That be the case, which is a fact. The problem is that if the Imran Khan problem of the army is not handled in a better way, and now, what the military has done, I'm sorry, I'm diverting a bit. You showed that.
No problem. Please go ahead.
You showed that meme which said that jang jeeti nahi te, election hare nahi. Now they've come to a point when na jang jeette hain, na election jeette hain. So elections is something that they've not been able to interpret correctly. Starting from 1970, whenever people's mood has changed, they've fallen behind that. And then they have to catch up. Now, here is a issue of now the army will have to catch up and try to communicate, soften a bit, which means that Asim Munir, who is reputed to have the mood of General 𝗤𝙑, he doesn't forgive and forget, he's an angry man, all of that, he will have to rethink how far to push Imran Khan. When I look at the, the crystal ball, suddenly after these elections, I don't see an end of Imran Khan. Imran Khan, 10 years sentence, 14 years, 7 years. Before election, everybody was like, this is end of Imran Khan. No, this is not the end of Imran Khan. Imran Khan will re-emerge. That's for sure. Who is he negotiating with? Who are his partners? And what I found very interesting is that he's so much in command of his party. Despite that he's not being able to run it, that the AI message was from Imran Khan, not from the party leaders put together who would have said, here we are, we won these elections, and this is the message. So he remains a powerful symbol. And negotiating between this powerful a man and another powerful man who has just received a signal from the public that he is to take a gentle hand. That is something which is now will be interesting to watch. That what kind of negotiations will happen, how will they happen, what room will get created for Imran Khan, at least for the short term. They'll have to create space for him. You can't just shut your eyes and say, no, you can rot in jail and we'll move on. So will Asim Munir and how will Asim Munir? And let me tell you something, that I think one of the things which I'm a bit concerned about is that the army today, these election results are going to have an impact on the mood of the army as well. Let's not forget that not 80, but almost close to 500 officers, were sacked because of, majors, captains, colonels, lieutenant colonels, for their support for Imran Khan. This is going to have an impact. So the general, better think.
Yeah, ma'am. I have one more question for you, because let me put it this way. We've discussed about the army, we've discussed about the politics, we've discussed about a lot of things. One important part of the Pakistan judiciary, the judiciary is the third player in this entire story, and that's been historically so. Whenever the judiciary, whichever side the judiciary has sided, that side has almost won. So where do you think the judiciary is going to, what are your views about the judiciary at this point of time, and what role it's going to play?
Let me try to answer it
whichever way.
A different way.
Yeah.
So Pakistan has had two populist leaders, 𝗤𝙑 𝗲𝗏 and Imran Khan. While 𝗤𝙑 𝗲𝗏 got mistreated by the judiciary and was let down by the middle class, extended middle class, which includes the lower middle class, continues to support Imran Khan, and Imran Khan has received greater sympathy from the judiciary than Bhutto could ever imagine. Now, these election results will be a signal as well. So I'm here in London, 3 days before elections. One of the senior judges of the Supreme Court, Justice Athar Minallah, was here, and he was speaking at LSE, and somebody from the crowd, a young man, got up very angry, said, you the judiciary of Pakistan are not independent, and this, that, and the other. He said, listen, we are independent, at least he said, I'm independent. Let these cases, he was probably referring to appeals, that let these appeals come and you will see that we will be independent. So I'm sure many of the judges will, use excuse of independence to overturn some of the decisions. The problem is, and it's not that there will be unfair overturning of decisions. There are large holes in the decisions against the 3 decision sentences against Imran Khan. They're very weak cases. The manner in which they were completed, he was not allowed to complete his statement. None of the procedures were not even completed. So these are weak cases from the word go. They will get overturned. Secondly, judiciary is the moment for the army to actually negotiate with Imran Khan. That will be the route. If any advantages to be given, if there's going to be a weakening of position or softening of position, this is a better term, at the GHQ, then it will also be reflected, not the only factor, but it will also get reflected in how the judiciary now behaves towards Imran Khan.
Yeah, thanks a lot, ma'am.
Jan Shankar, before you ask me a question, I thought there are enough issues which Ayesha has raised which I could comment on.
Yeah, we will, sir. You will,
Okay.
and I'll ask you to comment on that. We'll take time. There's no, one important thing. I think I'll just reinforce what you said. Already, there's a move on this direction. That's why it just came to me as we were speaking that we should talk of the judiciary, because Mr. Imran Khan has already his bail. He's been given bail in one of the cases, the earliest case where he was arrested, not in the case where he's been convicted. So I think I thought there was a softening, and like you rightly said, the judiciary might be the one who will adjudicate, who will provide the link between the army and Imran Khan and the rest of the politicians, the conduit to make things happen in the right direction for Pakistan. Ata Hasnain sir, yours, all yours before I.
Okay, I thought Ayesha made some very, very interesting points.
Yeah.
And I may have one or two counterpoints, but by and large, I go along with her. Number one, I would like to comment on the personality of Asim Munir. You see, we tend to write off people who are not high profile. Asim Munir is a quartermaster general. I've never heard of a quartermaster general coming to become the chief in Pakistan, right? Or for that matter, even in India, right? So we tend to sort of he's not an extrovert. He is not like Rahil Sharif with a background, a family background, decorated martyr brother or something like that. He doesn't have all that. But I was hugely impressed with Asim Munir when he handled the 9th May crisis. It was a typical military way of handling it. Landing up there in a helicopter, going around the cantonment, speaking to the troops, holding a number of Sainik Sammelans, etc. I agree. This was a military problem, and it was militarily handled. Now, whether he can continue handling this almost crisis-like situation in Pakistan efficiently or not, I think he's growing on the job. There's no doubt that this whole election has been very ham-handedly handled, but he's growing on the job. And it's not as if Pakistan Army generals of the past have all come from day one and have been great strategists. But we know what Pervez Musharraf did in Kargil. We know about Ayub Khan. We know about Yahya Khan. We know almost all of them. This is the history. Pakistan has had this history. So don't write off a man, I personally think, like Asim Munir. Sometimes very grounded generals of this nature rise to be great strategists. And strategists, I'm not looking at it only with an inverted commas of military strategy. I'm looking at it from a larger angle. Second thing, I would ask Ayesha to also comment, perhaps in her deliberations, she did not mention this aspect. We have seen when people become dangerous to the establishment, then Pakistan is known to just axe them, cut them off. What happened to Benazir Bhutto? What happened to our father? We are aware of it, right? So if Imran Khan is becoming dangerous for the army, you can never rule out the possibility of what could happen to him tomorrow, right? He's in jail, he's in prison. What could happen to him? That should not be not thought of, because it's just one decision at the level of the senior-most person from the army, whoever he is at that time, who could just consider. Someone like Asim Munir could not think of survival in Pakistan if Imran Khan comes to power ever tomorrow. No doubt on this, we have not seen the last of Imran Khan. No, there's no question. Dr. Ayesha is absolutely right. We have not seen the last of Imran Khan. There is abhi to bahut kahani baki hai iske andar. But this angle must not be forgotten, that this confrontation between the army and Imran Khan can lead to some very, very dangerous proportions. And the army is not someone who's going to leave this. They love to rule the roost. Whether they are divided or anything, they would want to hold the reins of power. After all, 90-acre farmlands and things like that are still available to them. That is something which has to be remembered. My last point on what Dr. Tara Kartha also said, while agreeing with her entirely on this aspect, on India-Pakistan relations. A lot of people in India think that a weak Pakistan is an ideal thing for us. I entirely endorse what she has said. Weak Pakistan is not something in our interest at all. With all that is happening here, we have to remain alert. We've got to keep our eyes on the LOC. We've got to keep our eyes on Kashmir, on all kinds of things. How it manifests from there dangerously into our territory, it can happen in all kinds of unpredictable ways. And I'm sure, I hope the Indian intelligence agencies are keeping their eyes and ears open completely to what can happen as a backlash from what is happening in Pakistan at the moment.
Thank you, sir. The most interesting part of what you have said to me, I mean, let me put it in a bit of a jest, is that ye to trailer hai bhai, picture baki hai. It's going to unfold and it's ahead, right? But having said that, sir, the question which I wanted to ask you is this. What about the regional dynamics? If you see, we did speak last week, 10 days back, 15 days back, that Pakistan has been, high on naval exercises, air force exercises, army exercises with even Iran, Saudi Arabia, China, and all. And then it has also started its relations with Russia and things like that. How does that get impacted with what's happening? Because at the end of the day, we also need to realize that Pakistan has two shades. There's an internal shade and there's an external shade. And the army has been very adept at handling these two and keeping them apart. Right? How does this play out? How do you see this playing out? And especially considering what you said about Asim Munir. I agree with you about his character, the way you put it out. But there are certain shades, but I will not get into it because this is not his character.
Okay.
But I'm talking of the two shades of Pakistan.
Regional dynamics, absolutely. Pakistan, no one has this kind of an opinion that in Pakistan everything is going to be on internal politics and that Pakistan can only be, can handle only one issue at a time. Well, as a nation, they've been known to handle many, many things simultaneously. They've handled Afghanistan, they've handled Kashmir simultaneously, they've handled internal security simultaneously. So this is not something alien to them completely. The emerging regional environment from the Red Sea to the Afghan border, and I would even take it up to Kashmir, is a very, very interesting thing which is happening at the moment. And Pakistan is an important player in this. Pakistan realizes it. I'm sure the various strategic analysts in Pakistan, the think tanks in Pakistan, Pakistan's own Perspective Planning Directorate and the Military Operations Directorate all perceive this. This is a great opportunity which is happening. Pakistan can come back into strategic significance all over again. The fact that the Americans and NATO came to them for ammunition to give to Ukraine was a very big thing and a big decision taken by the Pakistan army at that time. So they are sensing the opportunities. Afghanistan not going their way. They can't allow that to continue to happen like that. Iran, I think that was just a bit of a issue which happened. It's not something which is going to be permanently there. But a very important aspect is to act in concert with China in the Northwest Indian Ocean region. This aspect of naval power, etc. there, the energy security which China is seeking for the future. All this, Pakistan realizes it can play both. It can play the United States, it can play China, it can play all the Middle Eastern powers, the Gulf nations themselves. It is one of the very, very important swing states in this entire equation which is there. So as a result, I don't think this election is going to make a major difference on it, except the fact that when General Munir went to Washington, I'm sure a lot of discussions must have taken place on the strategic environment and how the Pakistan can come to the assistance of the United States. I only hope that I think the internal politics of Pakistan would not make such a difference. Although it will, as we discussed earlier, set back the ambitions of General Asim Munir to try and raise Pakistan a couple of levels, a couple of notches higher on its strategic significance as far as the United States is concerned.
Right, sir. Thanks a lot. Madam, please come in.
Yeah, just a slight difference with General Hasnain. See, at the moment, Pakistan is reacting to each situation as and well it can. It is not in a very good position of, playing the game, as you call it. It is trying to please the US by sending weapons to Ukraine. It's got a bunch of people sitting on its Iranian border, including that Though you saw that leak where they said the Israelis were parading as CIA agents and getting into Iran using that area to target the Iranians. There are all sorts of players within Pakistan. Then that is exactly what I meant when I said a weak Pakistan is not good for us. This is not Pakistan in strength. This is Pakistan trying to negotiate with anyone and everyone to keep, its relevance. So I would make that slight differentiation. Second thing, I
Yeah.
just sorry, please go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no,
No,
no, no,
no,
no, no. Finish.
Yeah.
When you're finished, we'll get
See,
her.
we have this very strange thing of now. There's no doubt that Imran Khan has caught everybody's imagination. I mean, finally, the US has finally come out and said, "Oh, problems in elections, blah blah." The UK has come and I think said the same thing. And here is this man, as Ayesha said, who's very far from being a Nelson Mandela. He hounded the opposition. He used the NAB to the extent possible. He was a military little baby himself. I mean, he came into power in the most, what shall I say, violent manner possible. And today he is the shining, light of democracy in Pakistan. But I think he is 72, if I'm not mistaken. So there's not
71,
a
72, it's okay.
yeah, so there's not a lot of time, right? He's got to get things going. Second is, I think PTI stands out in the way they have used the media. They are masters. They've used the Twitter, the media to the.
Yes.
It's worth learning the way they've used it to the extent. But again, my question to Ayesha is I got that 47% from this free and fair election network. So that was the apparently the election turnout. To give you a relative ideas, our general election was 67%. So 47% is not, it's not a lot. And there's also speculation that I think in parts of Karachi, watching Geo News, etc., there was hardly anyone. So the youth doesn't seem to have come out in droves or anything of the sort unless it was towards the end of elections. So I'm what I'm trying to do is to get at actually what happened, because like I said, we are also falling for the PTI narrative and also the sheer drama of the situation, that he's getting nearly 100 seats. But if PTI independents have to go forward, they have to negotiate with the army. And that is the problem. There is no other way. Nobody is going to touch them with a barge pole to make a. I mean, there was a question. Somebody said that PPP will. I think General Shankar said PPP and PTI in Sindh.
PTI.
I,
Yeah.
I don't
Let's
think
see.
that will happen. I don't know.
Let's
But
see, man. Let's see, madam. Dr.
Can-
Siddiqa, please, madam.
Yeah.
Yeah, please go ahead. Go ahead.
See, Tara, the important thing is what has come out very visibly in these elections is that not only was the PTI smart in using social media, but they've also managed to organize the party for people to go and vote. Actually, voting has happened and people have voted for them. That's a fact, right? So it gives them, what February 8th has given to PTI is a new life. It has actually made it into a party. So thanks to the army opposition as well, they've, come of size. A couple of points that I wanted to make, what, General Hussain said. Bibi was killed, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was killed. I mean, both were assassinated. They were being far more dangerous. They were not from Punjab. Two, they were far more dangerous in terms of cutting down, the size of the military in the long term. The reason they got rid of Bibi, I would argue that, the hand behind the gun may be 𝗣𝗚𝘅 𝗍𝙗's, but the mind behind was probably sitting somewhere in the GHQ. Now, the reason they got rid of her was because she was returning with the NRO, not being kind of controlled by them. There was no way they could control her. And the fear was that she will actually help the United States push back the army, especially in Afghanistan. That was one fear. And the other is, of course, Musharraf with his larger than life ego. So 2 reasons there. Now with Imran Khan is from Punjab. They've not tried to kill Nawaz Sharif. They've not tried to kill Imran Khan. They've put them behind bars. And Imran Khan is also eager to negotiate with them. I mean, his problem is not the army. His problem is not cutting them down to size. His problem is recognize that I'm the power. You had promised me 10 years in power. You backed out, right? You go back to putting me back on the throne, and I'll be happy. All these people of his support base, he will, and that will be his test. If, for example, that happens, will he manage to convince his support base, which suddenly saw light of the day that this military is extremely troublesome politically, will he manage to control them? So, General Hasnain, going to your thing about Asim Munir, you army men all love all army men. But the problem is that, Asim Munir's biggest advantage, and it apparently from what I've heard, is his tour in the US went well. I mean, he managed to convince them that, let me try to settle down Pakistan the next 2-3 years, kind of work on its economy, work on geoeconomics, put some life back into Pakistan, and I'm also ready to play along with you. The fact of the matter is that this is something which was decided by the army much before Asim Munir, and Asim Munir is just following that formula. Yeah. Pakistan, I think around 2016, 17, 18 realized that, and that was a time, 13 to 16 was a time when Pakistan seemed to have been drifting towards China. Around 2017, 18, the diplomatic corps, especially the pro-United States lobby in the GHQ, and largely the military realized that this would be a very bad move. That actually the best option for Pakistan is to have, to work with both. Now, as far as China is concerned, what Pakistan does, very well is go and take weapons, because the Western market is not open for Pakistan. Pakistan ordered 8 submarines, Chinese submarines, to be fitted with German engines. Germany refused to provide those engines. So despite that the hulls were cut for the German engine, they had to kind of redesign it. So the West is not willing to give Pakistan weapons. Pakistan doesn't have deep pockets to buy weapons. Who is there to help? China. So Chinese weapons, but China is also become thoughtful. It says, you want money? Here, take credit, take loan, which is going to get Pakistan into a very bad debt burden, which doesn't go down well, definitely not with the IMF, definitely not with the United States. So that gap will probably be filled by countries of the Middle East and the Gulf, UAE, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia. These are the friends with helping hands, which also says something about Pakistan would have to, with Asim Munir in charge, will have to go soft on how does he deal with India. He'll have to be thoughtful on that count. As far as United States is concerned, definitely. United States has raised Pakistan military for too long. It's not about to abandon it and let it kind of jump into China's lap. So Pakistan has an advantage of actually, playing both sides. Now, the problem then remains for the Pakistan army, one problem, which is how do you rework the economy and Pakistan's politics? And I think these elections do pose a problem for it. For example, one of the ways the General Asim Munir thought of revamping the economy was retire public sector assets. Pakistan International Airlines, Pakistan Steel Mill, Pakistani airports, railways, etc., Pakistani ports, all of that. And by the way, it will be interesting for you to hear that Karachi Port Trust, West Wharf and East Wharf. Both these wharfs have been given on on lease to I think either to Qatar or to UAE. China came running
Really?
later that we are interested and said, sorry mate, we already done the deal, so you're out. So China is being handled very strategically as well as far as Islamabad is concerned. Now the problem with going back to elections and economy, the problem here is this: if you're going to make a coalition government with the PPP and PMLN, the problem starts right here. And the problem is, to someone, will PMLN then be able to slap more taxes, which the IMF wants, without losing its vote bank and support base? And secondly, the problem is that while PMLN is completely for neoliberalization, privatization, sab kuch bech do, PPP is much more careful. PPP is saying, no. We have to, we have to keep PIA, we have to work PIA, Pakistan Steel Mill, etc., because their support base is there, the labor. I mean, already today, Bhutto has spoken about revamping labor unions and student unions. That means support base, but it also means a question mark for the kind of privatization that General Asim Munir wants. One final thing. Again, General Asim Munir is going big on agriculture. I mean, they've taken over almost 150,000 acres, which they're going to, almost turning, making Pakistan Army into a United Fruit Company of the United States as it operated in Latin and South America. The problem is, it's going to create water problem, water shortage between tension of water distribution between Sindh and Punjab. And when you have two parties representing opposite interests sitting in the parliament and in the government, it's not going to be that easy. It's not going to be good for his projects. And the thing is that despite that, Asim Munir is definitely going to learn a few things on the job. Maybe he gets smarter. I think the next 3 years, I mean, his term ends in 2026. The lesson that we have is that every general who comes gets an extension. It's almost like a American presidential election. Every president who gets elected then wants another term, right? He gets elected. This one gets that extension for 3 years. This one, if he doesn't solve the Imran Khan problem in an imaginative way, and that is where I put the question mark, if he has sufficient depth in him to do that extra imagination, if he's not able to do that, then I'm sorry, he can say goodbye to an extension. There will be tensions for him. Sorry for that long response.
No problem. No problem at all, ma'am. Let me add 2 bits to what you have said about the economy. I don't see the economy of Pakistan reviving under any conditions, under anything which is going to happen, for 2 fundamental reasons which are not connected even with the elections. Right. The first is that Pakistan does not have the capacity to absorb FDI more than $1 to $1.5 billion. The problem which they've had with the $20 billion of CPC which they absorbed and they could not get any ROI, no one is going to invest in them and they can't absorb it also. That is one. The second thing is Pakistan fundamentally is a single river system. It's an agrarian economy with only one river and which is going dry. Water of Indus doesn't reach Karachi. That's the status. Actually, I've done a big study on that. So that's going to be a problem one way or the other. The revival of Pakistan economy is, and with the population going up the way it is, very difficult. And this election is only going to make it worse. So my 2 bits of thing is that we're going to see a jelly state of Pakistan. It's going to swing between China and India. It's going to be economically in this bad thing. And they're going to keep selling off assets. They don't have any other choice. But then that is something, like I said, we'll see in the future. with all your this thing, if none of you have any objections, I'll get on to a few questions.
If I can just add
Yes, sir.
10
Yes,
seconds,
Yes,
I
sir.
think I just want to reinforce that point. Look out, watch out for Bilawal Bhutto.
Yeah,
I have a conjecture, I have a feeling this guy is going to go places in Pakistan in the future. After having seen his discussion with 𝗣𝙗𝘅 𝗍𝙑 during his visit to Goa, if you remember,
yes.
it impressed me. I did not expect a guy 34 years old to be able to take on a man like 𝗣𝙗𝘅 𝗍𝙑, so experienced a journalist, and be able to take care of all the responses which were necessary in that interview. So
Okay.
I think we need to look out for that. Absolutely.
Right. So let me start asking, take a few questions. Okay, the first question. Despite the Pakistan election and whatever be its worth, the military remains in command as earlier. In these circumstances, there can be no change in the present oblique future. Your views. Tara, madam, all yours.
Yeah, actually, that is what I've been saying. That despite, I think General Hasnain said that perhaps this whole coalition is a underhand plan of the army. I think General Hasnain said that. Okay, that might be a bit much, but having done this kind of an experiment, what is their problem? They are sitting in their comfortable houses. They've got a quarreling bunch of politicians in their hand. They are at the head of the Strategic Investment Facilitation Council. They are at the head of everything in Pakistan. They will continue to be at the head of everything. I'm saying, the only mistake that Asim Munir made is making himself the face, the tough face, saying that I am the one who will sort out Imran Khan. I think that was a mistake. If he'd done it collegially, as a party quietly, it would have been far more acceptable. So they will carry on as before. Pakistan army, the same problem, the weaker the state gets, the Pakistani army's grip gets more. So that is why I keep
Stronger.
saying stable Pakistan, stable Pakistan.
Okay. Madam, this question is to Dr. Ayesha Siddiqa. Do you see General Asim Munir capable enough to take steps for Indo-Pakistan relationship which none of his predecessors have ever taken? And this question has been waiting even before this program started, so I could not refuse it, and it was directed to you. So, all yours,
Can
madam.
I just say one thing here? There's an Indian parliamentary panel which has asked for an examination as to whether we should open talks with Pakistan.
Okay.
So that's for Ayesha.
Yeah, I think there has been an understanding even before, which Asim Munir has inherited, which is, that Pakistan would want to improve relations with India, have trade, improve relations in general. But what Asim Munir has done lately, he has laid out his foreign policy agenda, and this was even before the elections came. So there was a youth conference to which he spoke, and then he spoke also at the Corps Commanders Conference. What he's telling India, what is he signaling to India is that, look, if you think that, because of our economic issues, we are so down on our knees that we will, basically forget about the Kashmir issue. No, the whole negotiation will have to start. That issue will also be brought up, statehood of Kashmir, etc., which is something which was probably discussed through back channel. So I think what I would be looking, I don't think he's going to stop. And it's very interesting that this victory speech that Nawaz Sharif made, he made it a point to raise one important issue, which was that we will have good relations with neighbors and we will reach out to our region. I think it was important, and he wouldn't have done it had he understood that there was, he wouldn't have done it if there was a disagreement with the army. The army is definitely eager, and when I say eager, it shouldn't be misunderstood and misread in India as going down on their knees and saying, "Ke maaf kar do," and
No, that will never happen.
right?
One
So
expects that.
it has to be a broad-based conversation has to start. They are in a mood to have that conversation, and I think what he'll guarantee definitely is that there is peace at the line of control, uh, and very slowly and gradually. I mean, right before elections, again, both India and Pakistan issued visas to diplomats who are working in each other's countries. Pakistan, of course, will have to take this first step. You know, if there is more eagerness, which is restore its High Commissioner, and which will allow then India to send back its High Commissioner, have full diplomatic relations, start some conversation. And I believe that after Indian elections happen, um, but a lot of what will happen between India Pakistan is no longer just in Munir's hand. It's also a matter of how Pakistan internally gets stabilized. You know, a lot of track twos which have been happening right before Pakistan's elections, which had gentle signaling from both sides. I think the assumption was that Nawaz Sharif is going to come back to power. Mr. Modi is very comfortable with Mr. Nawaz Sharif, and so a conversation will begin. Now, we are standing at a different moment in Pakistan's history. And therefore, internal dynamics will have an impact on how fast or how slow are these conversations.
Thank you, madam. Right. The next question is actually a follow-up of what you said. This is for General Hasnain. Sir, do you think that Prime Minister Modi would call up the new Prime Minister of Pakistan as a goodwill gesture, just like he called up Imran Khan in 2018?
See, Mr. Modi is always known to be responsible and take correct decisions. His relationship with Mr. Nawaz Sharif was exceptional, I would say. When we don't see those kind of relationships. What happened with his visit in 2015 and subsequently the Pathankot attack is a different matter completely. I'm not sure. You see, Mr. Modi would definitely want to sound that he is concerned about the region. He's looking for peace. He's looking for stability. But India's got an election coming up too. And that is an issue of concern. Although I believe that a gesture as simple as calling up a counterpart in your neighboring country with a country with which you had differences, but with a particular head of government with whom you've had a good relationship, I don't think Mr. Modi will hesitate from doing that. Knowing how pragmatic and sensible he is in handling of such affairs. If you remember 2014 also, the invitation which he sent to Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, and he came immediately here. I think a simple thing of picking up a phone and even speaking to him may not be something which should be far-fetched at the moment.
Right, sir. This is from Brigadier Deepak Sinha for Dr. Siddiqa. Your views on the credibility of a narrative doing the rounds that the US is pulling the strings of the army. It hopes Pakistan sides with India in its confrontation against China. A bit far-fetched, but then your views, madam. We can't hear you.
You're muted, ma'am.
You're muted.
Sorry. Very brief answer here. I don't think that Pakistan will be fighting either China for the US or US for China. It wants to put itself in the middle, neutral in a way, benefiting from both sides, but not taking part in their conflicts. And I think China does not need Pakistan either to give India a two-front situation.
Yeah.
In the last conflict between India and China did not kind of make Pakistan party to that conflict. because it knows that Pakistan it'll be very difficult for Pakistan to do that. There is enough kind of managing of Pakistan from the United States via the IMF. What the rents that Pakistan Army used to get directly from United States is now coming through the IMF. And for Pakistan and Pakistani general at the moment, the important thing is geoeconomics, which means that both sides are important. Neither side is less important. I don't think that Pakistan will be taking any sides, even vis-a-vis the India-China conflict.
Thank you, madam. Gautam Moorthy, sir. Will
Yes.
Pakistan concentrating rebuilding their own nation or creating more trouble for India? It's a very direct question, but I think it's worth. And this will be the last question for the day because so many questions. We've been 1.5 hours, and it's been a very fascinating discussion. Your last view, and then we'll.
Again, a very short answer at the end of this wonderful discussion is that Pakistan has to look inwards. India is posing no threat to Pakistan. India is very clear. We are clear on our status of J&K. And as Dr. Ayesha Siddiqa very rightly said, it is time. The gentle signaling is going on. We need to build bridges. The Pakistan Army needs to concentrate inwards. And if it is seen as a savior of its nation, if it wants to be seen as a savior of its nation, this is a time to step up, take responsibility, and do something good for Pakistan and ensure that it is set on the right track. Thank you.
Right. I'll not take any more questions. There are a whole lot of questions. We could spend the whole night and continue. And like I always maintain, every Indian is an expert on Pakistan, and he's got a view on Pakistan. And the reverse also could well be could also be a truism. I have no doubt about it. But today's was a fascinating discussion. I'm fortunate to have been part of it with 4 of you. You've given me a lot of new ideas, a lot of new things to think of. But what comes out at the end of our talk for about 1.5 hours today is that instability in Pakistan is going to continue. And that fundamental instability might go up and down a bit. But at this point of time, it is bound to go up by the way the elections are gone and the political wrangles are going on. Till such time the political instability in Pakistan continues, Pakistan will remain a weak state. And when this political stability, when they reach some state of stability, it is only then we can see Pakistan to be a stable state. I don't visualize it to be a strong state. For us in India, we have to recognize this reality and we have to deal with this reality. And as we deal with this reality, we also have to understand that, like Hasnain spoke, and we've been speaking about this new front which is coming onto our western flank, which starts from the J&K, comes right down to the run of Kutch, and then extends today till the Horn of Africa. There's a new whole story which is coming up, which we have to contend with. So for us as an Indian, I would look at our security aspects and our economic aspects, because this puts the IMEC also in threat under some question mark, right? So we have to look at it from a greater perspective. And a large part of that perspective is a Pakistan which is stable or unstable and how to deal with it. Gautam Moorthy, sir, I'd like you to thank all of them because you are the founder member of CASA and I'm doing it on your behalf. All yours, sir.
Thank you very much indeed, General Shankar, for this wonderful discussion. Thank you, Dr. Ayesha Siddiqa. Very kind of you to spare your time for us. Thank you, Dr. Tara Kartha. Thank you, General Hasnain, sir. Always such a pleasure to be and an honor to be on such a program with such a wonderful erudite panel. Thank you, General Shankar, for allowing us to use your StreamYard. And to all my members of CASA and the participants who patiently have sat through this, thank you all very much. May Pakistan get stable. I think that is the major consensus that all of us are coming around. May Pakistan get stable. Let us hope that these elections will produce, after all this Samudra Manthan, that is the churning of the ocean, let it produce some Amrit, as we say, let us produce some good quality leaders. Thank you all very much. Goodbye. Jai Hind and God bless.
Good
Thank
evening
you.
and Jai Hind to all of you. Thank you, madam. Thank you especially for
Thank
joining
you.
us all
Thank
the
you,
way
ma'am.
from London, and wish you very good
Thank you
health.
so much.
Thanks all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tara. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.